All right, everybody, welcome to the Phillies Daily Spring Training Edition. What's going on? It's Mike Gill, it's Jeff Kerr, as Andrew Painter has just finished up his 2 innings. Quick outing for him. He looked pretty good. We're going to get into it right now. Here we go. And Jeff, 20 pitches, 14 strikes. Looked like Andrew Painter looked like he was in midseason form. The biggest thing I was looking for, command, first pitch strikes. He got ahead. He threw 14 of his 20 pitches for strikes. You got to feel pretty good with what we saw from Painter, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Mike. So 14, as you mentioned, 14 out of the 20 pitches he threw were strikes, 70%. I looked at his first pitch strikes, 66.7%. So he was 4 or 6. Faced the minimum 6 batters. Obviously, didn't give up a hit. I like the command. I thought the command was a lot better than what I saw in AAA last year. Now, of course, as we know, command is the last thing to come back post Tommy John surgery. So if I had to judge this was Andrew Painter pre-Tommy John surgery we saw today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really bullish on Painter. I wasn't really worried about what I saw last year because, as you said, command is usually kind of the last thing that comes back, but he still had stuff, man. And I thought there was a pitch he threw to Dominguez in the game today. He started off with a fastball for a strike, and then he throws an off-speed deuce and had Dominguez kind of like, what? And then, he gets a couple of, soft ground balls. He busted Dominguez's bat up at the one. So you see he got in on the hands, about 98, somewhere right around there. So I think it was a very positive, quick outing. I know it's only 2 innings. It's spring training, but he looked very poised. He could have been a little amped up and overthrowing. Didn't see that from him. And what I thought he was really sharp was getting that first pitch strike for, I think he had it out of the 6 batters that he faced. I think he had first pitch strikes on 4 of them. So that's the key for me, is he's working ahead. Now he has the whole arsenal of things to work with. Last year, I think he only threw first pitch strikes less than 50% of the time. So you're constantly working from behind, and that gets you into trouble.
Yeah, and that was a huge concern for him. So I saw his first start in Lehigh last year, and he was having a little bit of trouble with that. And it wasn't the first 2 innings, but when you got the innings 3, innings 4, you're like, okay, that's a minor problem. The command wasn't there, but the stuff was, as you pointed out earlier, Mike. And I remember that night I heard, hey, 6 to 8 starts, and if he throws like this, he'll be up here. And I'm like, okay, well, it never happened, obviously, because he gave up a lot of home runs. I think it was like 18 or 19 he gave up in AAA last year. The command was getting worse in the later innings. Velocity went down a little bit. But how about today? I know it's only 2 innings. 96.7 miles per hour. First inning, 9 fastballs. Threw 4 in the second inning, 97.1 miles per hour. That's what you want to see. You want to see a variety of pitches. You saw a sweeper. You saw a slider. You saw a changeup. You saw a curveball. You saw a sinker. That's a pretty impressive arsenal. And what is this supposed to be, Mike? This is the Phillies' number 3 starter? Is that fair to say? Number 3, number 4 when Zack Wheeler gets back?
Well, I think that's a question, Jeff, is what is he? Is he just the back end number 5? Is he a number 4? I mean, what do they think of Nola? Nola threw the other day. Now he's going to Italy with Team Italy for the World Baseball Classic. Where do you pencil Painter in? And I asked the question, this was early last year, when the Phillies had kind of said he was going to be up in July. That never happened. But I wondered out loud is, look, this guy's one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball. I'm not saying he's Paul Skeens. I said, but what if he came up here and had that type of impact where he comes up and has like a, 2.30 ERA and he's just, lightning, exciting people. And the Phillies had a real question. Now, that never ended up happening last year. He never pitched well enough to get that call up. But what if that happens this year and you get that guy? Again, he's not Paul Skeens where he's going to win a Cy Young maybe right now, but that he has that type of impact that when he comes in and pitches, that you're getting a guy that's dominant. And I'm not saying I'm taking that off of the 2 innings that I saw today. I'm taking that off of who he's supposed to be. And maybe, you see a lot of guys come off of Tommy John and get stronger from that surgery, especially young ages. There are some stories of kids in high schools getting Tommy John purposely so that their arms can get stronger and they can get it out of the way. So I wonder where Painter slots into the rotation. I think that's something that we're going to be talking about throughout the season.
I agree, Mike. And I think they're going to be patient with him and his innings, right? So you got Aaron Nola who can eat innings. Obviously, he's at the World Baseball Classic right now. Christopher Sanchez is at the World Baseball Classic right now. But, when does Zack Wheeler get back? I'm hearing between April and May. We'll see. I don't think they have a set timetable for that. I think that's an educated guess. So we'll figure out when Zack Wheeler falls in the equation here. But I don't want them putting a lot of pressure on this kid, just like Justin Crawford. I think it's smart to have Justin Crawford bat 8, bat 9th. I'm assuming Justin Crawford's going to bat 9th. You put Andrew Painter as at best the 3 starter, but maybe the 4. And does it really matter if you're the 4th or 5th starter if you're striking out people and having an ERA in the mid 3s? No, it's
no. Well, the question will be though, and we're forgetting about Luzardo too. I mean, Luzardo. If he's your number 3 and Painter's your number 4. Think about this last year in the playoffs. You had to throw Aaron Nola. Here's the big question, though. If Aaron Nola is in the rotation and he's pitching back to Nola's standards, now you have Wheeler, Sanchez, Luzardo, Nola. What if Painter outshines Nola? We know one problem is you're not going to pitch Nola out of the bullpen come playoff time. So I think that's going to be a story all season long, is if Nola goes back to form and Painter pitches like we hope he does, that storyline starts to emerge. And then, Luzardo pitched really well out of the bullpen in the playoffs last year. Could you use him the way the Dodgers use some of their starters and go with Painter if Nola pitches as well as Nola has shown in the past? I don't know what to expect from Nola this year. I'm kind of, I feel that he had the injuries and he never really got to form. I'm more on the side that he'll bounce back and be more of the Aaron Nola that we saw, maybe not Cy Young, number 2 in the Cy Young balloting Aaron Nola, or maybe number 3 in 2016, but, a serviceable starter.
Yeah, Mike, and that's the thing with Aaron Nola, right? If you get an Aaron Nola who eats a lot of innings and has an ERA between 3.5 and 4, you're going to take that after what you saw last year. And I remember you and I had this conversation during the summer. If you would have told me Jesus Luzardo was going to miss what, not Jesus Luzardo, Jose Alvarado, sorry, was going to be suspended.
Pitching right now, by the way.
Yeah. And miss 80 game, by the way. He just had 1, 2, 3 inning. Yeah. So you tell me Jose Alvarado is going to miss 80 games. Jordan Romano is going to be terrible. Aaron Nola is going to be terrible and then hurt. Oh, and by the way, the Phillies have a 600 win percentage in mid-July. You probably want to laugh because you needed those guys. And obviously other guys stepped up on this team. And I thought going into the postseason, outs 15 through 21 were going to be the biggest outs. They just never seemed to have that guy, or they had that guy and they didn't use him in Ranger Suarez. And with Andrew Painter, this is where the whole Nola equation comes back in. Noah's not going to the bullpen. You can put Jesus Luzardo in the bullpen, but you're really going to do that? Christopher Sanchez isn't. Zack Wheeler isn't. That's your weapon.
And I don't think Painter is either. Here's a guy who had arm problems. I don't think they want him pitching in a role that he's never done before.
Yeah. It's funny, though, like how everybody knew Ranger Suarez was not coming back. As much as he wanted to come back, it was not happening because of Andrew Painter. That's one of the reasons. They spent the last 2 years not training for a superstar bat because they knew they had Andrew Painter. And Andrew Painter was coming off Tommy John. You weren't going to get the value that you would have gotten, say, 3 years ago. And they weren't going to do that anyway. You just don't trade generational pitching prospects. And to their credit, they didn't. So you had to let a guy walk. And Jesus Luzardo, I'm assuming they're going to get an extension done with him. But when they signed Aaron Nola, that was kind of the writing on the wall for Ranger Suarez, even though he gave him 2 amazing years after that.
Yeah, I definitely, we're talking about Painter and his day today. I'm really interested to see where he fits in because keep in mind, you also have Wheeler likely will not be ready to start the season. Most 100% will not start the season. When will he come back? And then when he does come back, what happens? Taijuan Walker, I know most people watching this right now don't care about what happens to Taijuan Walker. But now he's back in that limbo of, is he a long man? Is he a bullpen guy? Is he you're back to that again. But if you get Painter, Nola, Luzardo, Sanchez, and Wheeler, those five guys, I mean, you got five guys who could potentially be, all five of them guys could be top of the rotation type of pitchers. And that gives you much better starting pitching. Now, I know you lose Ranger Suarez from last year, but quite frankly, he didn't have that big of an impact in the playoffs based on the way they used him. They could have used him more out of the bullpen, and I wonder if that becomes Luzardo again. But, Painter definitely is the guy that you're wondering, is he the fifth? Is he the fourth? Is he the third? Is he a playoff pitcher? That'll be one of the big stories, I think, with the pitching staff all year. But you mentioned outs 15 through 27, and that's where I think the Phillies think they're better this year than the team last year that won 96 games. Getting those final 6 outs with Brad Keller and Duran, as opposed to Jordan Romano and Matt Strahm last year. I think the Phillies feel that they are much better equipped to get the last 6 outs than they were the year before.
Yeah, and you want to mention another back end of the bullpen piece, Ryan Kerkering, with his splitter coming in. Now all of a sudden he's not a 2-pitch pitcher anymore. He's added other pitches. And so that's going to help him. But yeah, and let's get back to Painter here. I wonder how many innings he's going to throw this year, because I got to remember the exact total last year. I think it was just under 150, if I remember. I think it was between 130 and 150, if I recall. Do they go over 150 this year? And if they do, how is that going to work? I'm curious to see, if they kind of tighten the reins on him a bit.
Well, what could be one plan is there's where Taijuan Walker comes into play. Maybe you use Painter and he only pitches 5 innings, and then you get Taijuan Walker to try to get him to pitch the 6th, maybe 2 innings there, and then turn it over to your bullpen. And that's the way you can effectively, use those 6 guys without having to starting Taijuan Walker when Wheeler gets back. But watching Painter today, I thought the big thing was that he wasn't overly amped up. It was 3 years to the day that he last pitched in a spring training game, and he's out there looking like a veteran, right? I mean, he looked like this is old hat for him, and I thought that was something that was pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, now all we got to see is how he's feeling, right? Because 3 years ago today, he felt something, and that something ended up being Tommy John surgery, which he didn't get till July, and you kind of knew right away. It's like, you might want to get this done now. Like, what are you doing here? Like, I know.
Yeah, that whole situation a couple of years ago was kind of like drawn out, and it was like you kind of knew something was going on, and they kind of kept pushing it. And now here we are 3 years later that he finally pitches it. And that tells you how long this guy's journey has been.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Mike, I got a story for you. So I know a lot of pitchers that formerly pitched, currently pitch. I had people tell me right away, it's Tommy John. What are they doing? And I'm like, I get it, but you got to take a second opinion, third opinion. And they all said, well, I pitched. It's Tommy John. So that's where I was concerned about. And, it doesn't matter now, right? He's only 22 years old or 23. Let's put it this way. Him and Justin Crawford are going to be 2 reasons to be excited for this team this season. And look, I was really impressed with the fastball. I think he threw 2 change. I think they were both balls. I got to look at my chart again, but the changeup.
One changeup he threw, it was an 0-2 pitch, and he threw it way up in the zone. Not way up, but I like the pitch. I like the look at 0-2, change the eye level, get the hitter looking up, and then try to come back with something, drop it, change the eye levels there. So it was an 89-mile-per-hour changeup, by the way. I mean, that's pretty dirty. If he can spot and locate, we saw Sanchez the other day throwing nasty, and then they showed on the broadcast today video of Cole Hamels and his changeup from 2004. I don't think he's ever going to get to that level of changeup, but if he can locate that changeup, man, watch out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the hype of Painter was the frame. 6'7", he's a big kid. He seems like he throws that 97-mile-per-hour fastball effortlessly. Like, what's going to happen when he builds that strength back up and that elbow really gets back? that's going to be 99 100. I mean, and again, we're not saying this guy's Paul Skeens. I don't think anybody's Paul Skeens, but
no, I agree. He's not. I don't think he's like Cy Young, Paul Skeens, where he's going to be 197 ERA. But when I say Paul Skeens, I'm just talking about a guy who comes in and has that type of impact. Meaning, when he pitches, your team basically feels like they're going to win. Now with Skeens, you didn't feel like you're going to win because you couldn't score. That was one of the problems. That's one of the problems there. But he's losing games 1-0, 2-1. If you have a guy whose ERA is, in that 3 area in Painter, with this offense, I know we belabor the offense a lot, but they're top 10 in runs scored. They're one of the better offenses in the league, even if they struggle come playoff time. Painter could be a huge impactful pitcher for this team.
What do we think his ceiling is for this year? Like, what are your expectations for him?
I'll tell you what. I mean, the max ceiling, if he's at his best, I mean, you could talk about, I know this might sound crazy, but I wouldn't be surprised if you're talking about a guy top 10 Cy Young voting.
I would agree with that. And I think he's got the talent for that. Now, I'm a bit easier.
If he's healthy and his stuff plays out and his command's there, all the things that you've heard so much about him coming into this was this guy's one of the best pitchers and prospects in baseball. And if that's the case, I'm not hoping that one of the best prospects in baseball is a middle tier starting pitching. No, I'm thinking this guy's a high end. And I say this because, Jeff, there are so many young players and pitchers particularly that come into the game and excel right off the bat. They come in, you look at the Mets staff last year, McLean comes up and he's dazzling. And, we know Skeens is on another level, but these guys have stepped right into the bigs and get swing and miss with their nasty stuff. There's no reason to think that Andrew Painter is not every bit as good as these other guys.
Yeah, Cole Hamels was like that in 2006. He came up, struck out a lot of guys, had a bunch of nasty pitches, needed to get better command, but you saw the progression from that half, or I should say more than a half season we saw in 06 to what he became in 07. You could see, oh, this guy's a future ace. This guy is the guy that wants the ball. Remember that Friday night game against the Nationals in September when they were coming back to clinch the division? He got the ball and had 13 strikeout night, was completely dominant. It was one of the loudest I've seen Citizens Bank Park. I think that's what you think Andrew Painter can be. That's the guy that's going to get you 10 plus strikeouts a night, not allow a lot of runs, even when the offense is struggling. And I agree. It doesn't matter if he's the 3 or 4 in this rotation, because let's just face it. This rotation's got Zack Wheeler, really good when he's healthy. Christopher Sanchez, you could say right now he's a top 5 pitcher in baseball. I don't think anybody would debate that.
But you talk about Sanchez, right?
Yeah, Sanchez.
Well, Buster only put out his 10 best at every position, and I was actually pretty surprised to see that he had Sanchez as the number 5 pitcher in the game. That means Sanchez has now emerged. Like, he is no longer like I hope, or no, people now expect him to be a ace number 1 pitcher when you're one of the 5 best pitchers in the game.
If Paul Skeens didn't exist, Christopher Sanchez would have been the Cy Young Award winner, and he'd be known for a lot more. And it was funny going into game 1 of last year because everybody knew how good Christopher Sanchez was, especially around baseball. But the casual fans like, oh, no, this guy's not Zack Wheeler. What are we doing here? Like, this guy's not going to hold his weight. Yeah, he is, because he's that good. And that's where I thought they missed Zack Wheeler toward the end of the season last year. You got Wheeler, Sanchez, and potentially Suarez pitching those first 3 games. That series might have been different.
I agree. And I think that's what the Phillies offseason was about. As much as we're all frustrated and they didn't do enough, Bryce Harper's frustrated. They wanted more offense. The Phillies say, listen, even with our lack of offense, we felt that if we had better bullpen, I mean, they had a couple games where they had to go to David Robertson in the 6th inning. I mean, they didn't have to. They had other options. They chose to go to David Robertson, which I didn't like, by the way. But they feel they have better bullpen options and they have better starting pitching options. And that if that's the difference and if that's the case, I think they feel that they're right there with the Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers went out and got Kyle Tucker, went out and got Edwin Diaz. You didn't do that. You went out and got Brad Keller, and you're now adding Andrew Painter. And that's putting a lot of pressure on this pitching staff to win 2-1, 3-2 type of games.
Doesn't it feel like there was more pressure on Painter 3 years ago, even though he was a 19-year-old wild card, than there is now, and he seems to be a certainty for this rotation?
Well, think about it. Since then, Christopher Sanchez has emerged. Luzardo wasn't here at that time, and now he's a top number 2, number 3 guy in your rotation. So you have those two guys that you didn't have when Painter's name first kind of surfaced. So it has
And
kind
you
of
have
worked out for him.
and you have Wheeler, obviously, Nola going to his free agent year in 23. Ranger Suarez, he was kind of mixing between a starter and reliever at that point. So he wasn't like the Ranger Suarez that started the first half of 2023 and was an all-star. You know what you were getting there yet, and you signed Taijuan Walker. So yeah, Painter was supposed to slide into that 5, and that's your guy. And I think they planned that, and then
think about that, Jeff.
Yeah,
they signed Taijuan Walker $18 million a year because they were desperate to find someone to eat innings for them.
yeah.
You know what I mean? They were just looking for a guy to make every fifth day starts at the back end. They were willing to pay $18 million for a guy to be your number 4 or number 5 just to take that turn every fifth day. And that's why, people get angry about the amount of money they paid Aaron Nola, which I agree. I mean, if they could take that contract back, I'm sure they would. But part of the reason why they decide to make that deal is they need a guy to make that start every fifth day. People don't realize how valuable it is to say this guy's going to be able to. And when he couldn't make those starts last year, a lot of things kind of, got jumbled up a little bit. Now you're hoping that Nola can make those starts every fifth day and get back to the Nola. And if he's a guy who's, 350 to 380 ERA, and he's pitching 6 innings a start, now you're back to a point where you've got some stabilizers in the back end of that rotation, and that's something they didn't really have much the last 2 years.
Yeah, I would agree. And look, when we talk about this rotation, we're talking about everybody healthy, right? So what happens when someone does get banged up or someone has to miss a couple starts, like a Zack Wheeler right now? There's not that much depth behind Taijuan Walker.
No,
who
would be the next guy? Would it be
Bryce Wilson?
He's had some starting experience in the past. You wonder if today, for instance, today's an interesting game to keep watching because we got a lot of people watching us, by the way. Thanks to everybody who is climbing in here. We're going to be doing the Phillies Daily podcast. We're going to have a ton of Phillies coverage with Phillies Daily, Phillies Farm System stuff. We'll be doing a lot of Phillies pods and
a lot of pre- and post-game shows.
Yep, absolutely. So we got a lot more coming. So make sure you hit the subscribe, like button, and we'll have plenty of Phillies coverage on the X and YouTube, and then on the radio as well, and online with Jeff Kerr this year. All right. So what the heck were we just talking about?
Is Bryce Wilson the sixth?
I was saying the rest of
starter?
This game, the rest of this game is interesting to watch because you've got like Pop and Meza and Backus. You've got like 4 guys who are all kind of battling for a bullpen spot, all pitching today. I got to go back and see who's listed as the rest of the pitchers today, but it's a good group of guys that are all. How many bullpen spots do you think are open?
I'll say this. I think they're going to have 8 bullpen spots, and I thought 2 were open. I think Backus gets one of them. So the last one's going to be between Zach McCambly, the Rule 5 pick, Zach Pop, Chase Sugar, who's also pitching today, by the way. So there are reasons to watch this game. And look, Tim Mays is in that conversation. Seth Johnson's in that conversation. But we got to remember, too, Lehigh's going to need guys. And this is where I'm going to give credit to this organization. This bullpen is a lot deeper than it was in years past. Like, you would throw out, like, Tim Meza, Seth Johnson, and Nolan Hoffman.
Well, keep in mind, Meza made the postseason roster last year. Now, I don't think he pitched in it. I don't know that he appeared in a game, but he was on the postseason roster last year.
If he did pitch, it was game 3, but I don't think he pitched.
Today – you've got Alvarado, I guess, just pitched in the last inning, right? I don't have the game on in front of me. I'm in a different room. But
he just pitched in the last inning. I'm just looking up everything right now. The Yankees still don't have a hit. Yeah.
So you got Backus, Tanner Banks, Jonathan Bolin, who you got in the trade for Strom. So
Yep.
he's pitching today. Zach Pop is pitching today. Chase Sugar is pitching today, and Jonathan Hernandez. So you could look at Backus, Bolin, Pop, Sugar, and Hernandez. Those 5 guys are all probably battling for maybe 1 or 2 spots.
Well, I think Bowen's made this team. So let's look at the locks here, right? You got Alvarado, you got Keller, you got Duran. That's 3. Kirkering's 4. Banks is 5. So I think Bowen's the 6. Yeah. I think Bowen's the 6. I think Backus is the 7th. So it comes down to, what do you want here, right? Zack Wheeler was healthy, if he Taiwan Walker, and this would be the end of it. But
that means to me, because I think Mays is out then, because if you're bringing in Backus, Alvarado, and I think you mentioned one other lefty in there, right? Tanner Banks.
Tanner Banks.
That's 3 lefties. I don't think you're bringing a 4th lefty into the mix.
Yeah, like Genesis Cabrera's had a good spring, but I think he's going to be more depth for Lehigh than anything else. I think he's found a way to stay in this organization. I don't think Nolan Hoffman's going to be in the mix. Zach McCamley, I've been a little disappointed in him. Just hasn't had the command in the couple games I've seen him pitch. And look, you got to find, if you let him go, he's got to go back to the Marlins. He just can't go to Lehigh. So I don't know if they really want to waste a spot there when you got Shugart and Pop throwing as well as they are. And the same with Seth Johnson.
And this goes back to your point about Bryce Wilson, though. He is a guy that could he make the team as a bullpen guy, or do you want him to go to AAA and get starts down there and be in the rotation in the event that you need him to come up if something happens?
Yeah, I want Bryce Wilson to get those starts in Lehigh. Same with Gene Cabrera, Alan Rangel. I look, so those are 3 guys there, but who's going to fill out the rest of that rotation? That's what I'm curious about. But they really do need Bryce Wilson to kind of be that top prospect he was a couple years ago. If they can find a way to develop him this year, you might have a weapon there.
It'll be definitely interesting to see how they build the rest of that bullpen, because they have so many options. A lot of veteran guys that they just kind of took a flyer on and said, battle it out at spring training, see who wins this thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a lot of turnover in that in that bullpen. But the big thing is your back end of the bullpen is very different from years past, where you are very much entrenched with your roles. Closer, Duran. 8th inning, Keller. 8th inning against lefties, Alvarado. So you've got a lefty setup man, a righty setup man. So that really gives you 7th, 8th, and 9th almost every single night of the week. I mean, obviously they can't pitch every single game, but when necessary, 7, 8, 9 is as good as any 7, 8, 9 in the league. And then it's just those other days. Kirkering can pitch a 6th inning. Tanner Banks can give you the 6 innings if there's lefties. So you have lefty options, righty options. It really sets up for one of the deeper bullpens that they've had maybe ever.
I'll give a lot of guys in this bullpen credit over the last couple of years. They didn't really know their roles, and they never complained. I've never heard them say, I'd be better if I knew what inning I was coming in. You never heard that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, think how many times they bounced Kirkering around last year. Same with Banks. Same with Strom. I'm sure they thought it, but they weren't going to openly admit it. And I think when Duran came in, I think that made things a little bit easier for everybody in terms of, okay, we know he's getting the ball late. It's just, where does everything else suit it? And by the way, we want to mention Alvarado again. Basically, when he got that 80-game suspension, I know he came back in late August and September, but he was out for the postseason. It was pretty much like he was out for the season.
Well, and then he got hurt again, though, in September.
Yeah. So he wasn't pitching in the postseason anyway.
Well, he wasn't. Yeah, obviously he wasn't eligible because of the suspension, but he ended up getting hurt, and he never ended up, he never made an impact when he returned. It'll be interesting now because I talked about this before. You had no closer essentially until the trade deadline and won 96 games. Now you're going to get Duran and Keller from April all the way through the season. How many more wins is that worth?
Yeah, and look, this is how highly Brad Keller's thought of. If people shook their heads, Brad Keller, I don't know who he is. He's on Team USA. He was picked to be on Team USA.
He's an interesting guy, though, for me. Like, he had a great year last year with the Cubs, but that's his only. He's kind of one of those failed starters that they've made a reliever, and then all of a sudden, voila, he's throwing like 3 to 4 miles per hour faster. Some of those times I get a little worried about those guys, but I think that he should be okay, because I think he profiles better as a bullpen guy. So I definitely am going to be keeping an eye on, hopefully, that he didn't have this 1-year wonder. And then, because bullpen guys are so volatile.
Oh, they are. I mean, look at Brad Lidge. We've experienced the Brad Lidge roller coaster from the perfect season to probably had one of the worst seasons ever for a reliever in 09, and he was okay the next 2 years. And I mean, for some bullpen guys, that's just the way it is. And I think it's so tough for the bullpen guys because everybody judges them on the game where they give up 3 or 4 runs. Oh, by the way, we forgot to mention Max Lazar in this equation, and, because he can give you innings, and he pitched really well for them last year outside of the game against Chicago, which everybody remembers. But Max Lazar,
and he's pitching for Israel in the World Baseball Classic, so he won't be here either. The Phillies have 12 guys.
12 guys, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of losing all these guys for spring training.
And to be honest, it should have been 13. I'm shocked Trey Turner was not asked.
Yeah, I mean, you have guys that are in the middle of or have a chance to win spots on the team, and they're not here. I don't know. I like the World Baseball Classic, but I think that they got to find a different time to do it.
Yeah, I do too. And look, we all get our fill of spring training, right? I mean, our job is to watch these spring training games. I enjoy, but it's going to be hard for me to watch a spring training game when the Netherlands and Cuba are on at 1 o'clock. I think I'm going to want to watch them. It's because you're playing baseball at the highest level, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the Netherlands. Well, Cuba's pretty good. I don't know about the Netherlands, but
Didi Gregorius is on the Netherlands still. Did you know that?
No, I did not know.
Hey,
Didi.
I'll tell you what. If you want to go down the rabbit hole, Mike, go look up current and former Phillies in the World Baseball Classic. Felipe Almonte's on Canada. JC Ramirez, I think, is on the Venezuelan team.
Really?
It's crazy.
Well,
yeah.
And this is where this tournament, to me, the whole thing with the Venezuelan team and the Dominican teams, they couldn't get the insurance. So some of these guys aren't even playing. I think a good time, I was talking about this the other day on the radio. I like the World Baseball Classic. I definitely think it has a place. Could you do it right after the World Series?
I think you could, but I think it's tough with football.
I know it's football, but could you play games? And this is like, could you play games like Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, something like that? I don't know. I just feel like trying to squeeze it in during spring training.
It feels like there's never a good time for this, right?
Or you could do what hockey did and just shut the season down for 2 weeks.
I think you're going to do that with the Olympics.
I think they probably will too. And I think the players with and this lockout that's going to be coming up, that might be something that they really push for. But is there a better time they could fit this World Baseball Classic in? Could they do something like they did with hockey with the
World Cup
Four
of
Nations?
Hockey?
The Four Nations.
Yeah, and the Four Nations, yeah. Well, remember hockey, they did the World Cup of Hockey before the season too. So that was kind of like the World Baseball Classic. And look, yeah, I think it does suck because pitchers are trying to get ready for the season and hitters aren't there. But I'll be honest, Mike, when they announced this 20 years ago or 21 years ago, the first tournament was 20 years ago, I didn't know how long it would last, but I was so entrenched by it. I'm like, this is so cool. I get to watch baseball at 5 a.m. I get to watch baseball at 1 p.m, 7 p.m. And I do think it's good for the game. And I do think it does grow the game. And if that's the goal, then it's working.
Yeah. Well, listen, I even wonder if you could do it in conjunction with the playoffs and have if your team's in the playoffs, you don't participate, but all the other players participate and you can play these games in the day.
You know what we're going to hear though? You know what we're going to hear? Oh, they didn't have their best player. Japan, we lost because we didn't have Ohtani. Well,
I mean, right now you don't have the best players. I mean, Lindor's not playing. Correa's not playing because they couldn't get insurance. Obviously, Alvarado, he couldn't play because he can't get insurance. You don't have the best players in America because, I mean, Scooble's going to pitch one game and then that's it for him because he wants to get ready for the season. I mean, there is no great time to do it. I do understand that.
Yeah, and look, maybe you do it in July sometime, but again, that breaks up the season. And I know people want to reduce games in baseball, but that's not going to happen. Baseball's always going to stay at 162. I'd be shocked if they ever diminish games.
Yeah, the question would be, now, how long does the World Baseball Classic last? Do you know?
So it's March 4th to March. It's not long. It's March 4th to, I want to say, March 17th. It's really quick. Like, because you and I will be down at Clearwater when it's ending. And I almost was going to make the trip to Miami to go see it. And I'm like, well, they're in the semis and finals. I'll never be able to get a ticket for that.
It's just about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Well,
about 13 to 15 days, I guess.
Yeah, I guess the question would be, can you take a week in like each month? That wouldn't work.
Soccer does that, but soccer's different though.
Yeah, soccer's different. The problem is you're using pitchers, and in baseball, when you have to use pitching, and when you're using arms, that's a problem.
Yeah. So, I'm going to bring up your idea again. What if they just took Monday off every week throughout the year?
It's a lot of travel. That's when you play. I know. Travel for these guys.
Yeah. And you got. I do like how the World Baseball Classic breaks it up though. Like the first couple of days are the pool play in Japan, and then Chinese Taipei and all that.
I mean, the one thing you could do is the All-Star break is the 13th, really through. It's like a 3-day break there, but some teams are off on
Rojas just lost the ball in the sun. By the way,
that looked bad. I thought Rojas is playing for his country as well.
Yeah, he is. By the way, I expect him to be in Lehigh getting regular at bats.
Yeah, that's another, and we'll be talking more about all this stuff is, roster spots. What's this bench going to look like? But there's really only one spot up for grabs here. But, Justin Crawford will probably be in center every single day. You're going to have Kemp and Marsh in left, and you'll have Garcia in right. I guess Brian De La Cruz has a chance to be the fourth.
This is what's good about the World Baseball Classic. This is why I'm kind of glad we brought this up. You're going to see more Brian De La Cruz and Dylan Moore. They're going to have a large enough sample size for the Phillies to say, hey, this guy should be the last guy on our bench.
The other guy, I guess, would be Dylan Moore. Does he got a shot in your mind?
I think Dylan Moore does because he plays a lot of positions. Like he plays
playing first base today.
Yeah, I think he's played every position in the majors but catcher. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah, because Sosa's going to. Now, who's the backup catcher? Do you think Stubbs makes it, or do they go back to?
Marchand had a double today, and I think Marchand really needs to get. I think it's going to be Marchand. I think they like Marchand. I thought he did an adequate job as backup catcher last year. Remember, he got off to a really slow start, and you were wondering, okay, maybe they'll bring Stubbs up again for Painter. That's the other thing, by the way. Stubbs and Painter work really well together. So that's where Stubbs falls into the equation here.
Yeah, well, I had no problem with Marchand. People were complaining because he wasn't hitting at all. I said he's only playing once every 2 weeks. I mean, what do you want him to do? But
backup catchers do that. They don't hit.
Right, but Marchand, great pop time, can throw. I mean, he's a tremendous guy throwing guys out. So you don't really have the drop off with Real Muto when Marchand goes. But yeah, Moore's playing first today. De La Cruz, those two guys, I guess, were battling for the last spot on the team. Obviously, Sosa's going to be here.
It would be nice if Gabriel Rincona's knee injury heals up because he could really throw a wrench into this as a left-handed power bat off the bench. Remember, he had a good spring last year and had a slow start in AAA, but kind of picked it up the last 2 months. A lot of the guys in the Myers picked it up the last 2. And you know what? I hear this all the time, Mike. We'll say this on our whatever we call our Phillies Farmcast this year. But after the trade deadline passes, a lot of these guys start hitting because I think the pressure's off. It's like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. I actually know where I'm going to be next year.
By the way, Bolin pitching 2 innings, 2 outs, both strikeouts. So Bolin is in the game right now for the Phillies. Tanner Banks threw an inning, 1, 2, 3, and Alvarado as well. So it's still nothing in the fifth.
Bolin just threw 196 too. Man, he knows how to pitch. I'll tell you what, I think that was a good trade for them. It was like everybody's upset. They traded Matt Strahm. I'm like, yeah, they traded Matt Strahm, but kind of like the guy they got. And a lot of people I talked to from Kansas City said, hey, you get this guy right, that's a good weapon. So
I think Strahm was a good time to pull the trigger on him because he had pitched, I think, way above expectations for 3 seasons. When you signed Matt Strahm, I don't think you thought you were getting an all-star left-handed relief pitcher, and I think it was trying to get out of that deal while you could.
Remember Matt Strahm started the 23 season as a starter?
Yeah, well, they needed him to.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing was left-handed relievers in free agency were at a premium this offseason. And I do think people were like, we have an all-star lefty, and your return was a guy that you didn't know much about. Now, Bolin might end up being a guy that surprises, but I definitely think the Phillies got out of the Strom deal at the right time.
Yeah, and look, they did cut some salary, right? And they're going to be cutting some salary next year too when you lose Taijuan Walker and the Nick Castellanos contracts off the books. And I mean, depending on what happens with the labor negotiations, I mean, they could be players to kind of add to their roster again. That's why I said with the Bo Bichette deal when it fell through, I'm like, they could revisit that.
Yeah, well, and he has opt-outs.
Yeah, I really do think it put a killjoy on a lot of people's offseason. And I don't blame him. If you're a fan, I don't blame you one bit. That would have been the guy that could have got you really excited for this baseball team again. And it does feel like they're running it back. I say they're not. Look, I'm telling you, when you change 30% of the roster, you're not running it back. But I felt they needed that to go with the Crawford Painter stuff. And I think people would be more excited. It's just a shame that Crawford has been good every year in the minors. Painter has been very, very good. I know he's been hurt. And I know Ian Miller's got the back injury now, but he's been pretty much good. And everybody's kind of like, okay, prospects.
Well, it's funny because for years you keep asking for the prospects. Now the Phillies are giving you the prospects, and you're kind of disenchanted because, you know, maybe you're saying because they didn't call them up, these guys aren't as good as advertised.
Yeah. But where was Crawford coming up last year? And I was told this, like, you want to know the reason why Justin Crawford is not here? And they would point at Brandon Marsh. I said, I would agree with you, because how are you going to take a guy out of the lineup that hit 300 since May?
I would say, though, Jeff, in the first half of the year when Marsh was really struggling, you had one of the worst outfields in all of baseball.
Oh, I would agree. Yeah.
You have a kid that was ripping it up, and you're like, if not now, then, like, because you're playing Rojas in center field with Marsh as like a platoon. And it's almost like, all right, I mean, Rojas, I always have liked Rojas. I understand what Rojas is, but a platoon with Rojas and Marsh, when Marsh didn't have a hit in the month of April, you're thinking, you got to do something here. And that's where it was a little frustrating.
Well, Marsh only said the right mentality.
Marsh came up and did a good job. Yeah. Once he came, he had that injury, and it was almost like they kind of like, listen, you're hurt, go down and kind of recharge your mind. And when he came back up, he took off.
Yeah. And I just remember, like, I spoke to Marsh a couple times last year, and I loved his mentality toward it. He pretty much said, well, can't be any worse, right? You go over in April, and then you hit 304 with a 838 OPS after you came back. That is legit. In this
and
league.
I know you covered Otto Kemp pretty closely, and you're wondering if he and Marsh can really be a compliment, because the problem last year with your platoon is Marsh and Rojas didn't complement each other because neither one of them, you know, Marsh can't hit lefties. Rojas doesn't hit lefties. Rojas doesn't hit anybody.
He doesn't hit anybody. Oh, and he's making errors in the field.
So when a left-handed batter came up, left-handed pitcher came in, you're not going to hit Rojas for Marsh in that situation. So the platoon didn't make any sense.
No, and that's where when they traded for Bader, I'm like, I don't care what this guy does. This guy is better than anything they were dealing with right now if you're not going to call up Crawford. And Bader did his job, and I think a lot of people overhyped Bader for 2 months because he would regret. He was going to regress to the mean, but I wouldn't have minded him back. The problem is Justin Crawford has done everything he needed to do in the minor leagues. He had to play. Adolis Garcia, do I think they jumped the gun on signing him? Yes, but it's only $10 million. It's a year. If he ends up hitting 25, 30 home runs and slugs 750, I think you got your value there. And look, Otto Kemp's healthy. Otto Kemp had a broken kneecap since June last year. And then I find out he hurts his shoulder in early September. And you're just like, man, this guy's just trying to survive this season, yet alone play in the major leagues. And I mean, I think you saw the other day the pop he brings. I'll tell you what, though, I'm scared of Otto's defense in left field. I know it's a work in progress, but it looked pretty bad the other day.
Yeah, well.
But that's how you learn.
Well, guess what? You got to find a way to get your bat in the lineup. If it's now if you're hitting 220, with a 308 on base, then I don't need to find a way to get your bat in lineup. But let's hope that his bat is impactful enough that you'll deal with his defense.
Yeah. What if he hits 260 with an OPS of 750, 800? Then all of a sudden you're. I mean, realistically, you love to see an 800 OPS if he's a platoon player.
Yeah, and if you can get 10 to 12, 15 home runs in his limited playing time, if he shows a little pop from the right hand side, then it gives you an option to be a pinch hitter. Something you couldn't do with Rojas. So you basically had a guy on the team that you couldn't utilize in the lineup as a pinch hitter in any situation. So now Kemp comes in, they bring in a lefty, you can go to Kemp and hit in that situation late in a game, stuff like that. So and the fact that he can play third, he can play first, so he can do some other things. So it gives them a little bit more versatility. So I think adding him and having him healthy for the full year certainly gives them a piece. Edmundo Sosa probably going to platoon at second base and get some regular playing time there. The other spot, I guess, in the outfield, we'll end up seeing who, is that Dylan Moore or De La Cruz. But the team seems pretty set. But today was about Andrew Painter, 2 innings, 20 pitches, 14 strikes. 6 up, 6 down, pretty clean day for Andrew Painter. So it was good to see him back on a spring training mound for the first time in 3 years.
Yeah, and against the Yankees too. Like, this is a team that they got some stars in that lineup. There's no doubt about it. And I know Aaron Judge ain't there because he's with Bryce Harper right now and preparing with Team USA, but that's a good test for him. And look, I was excited for this. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Same when he was in Lehigh. I went to a bunch of his starts last year in Lehigh. I took a lot of days off from the big club to go see this kid pitch. And I'm telling you, Mike, if the command's there, he's going to be something. And
I agree.
And you know what? He never opened up to it, but you could tell at times he was frustrated. He goes, he wants to get there. When you taste it, you have a shot. And it's Bryson Stott home run, by the way. Yeah, but
having a good spring.
Yeah, he is. And you know what? It's so different from when this time last year. I know I'm going off the rails here with Bryson, but look, last year I was literally told this: Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh were pretty much, there was an hourglass on them, meaning they better do something. And Bryson took him to the second half. He changed his swing. Brandon Marsh, obviously, we said about the over in April. It's going to be hard to take those two out of the lineup, especially against righties.
All right, man. Well, good stuff. A lot of people in here watching, so appreciate everybody. We're going to be doing this.
I do too. This is our first. What is this? Our Phillies daily show? Is this what we're?
Yeah, we're going to try to do these as much as possible, almost every day. Pre-game, some post-game, some minor league stuff. We're going to have some
lunchtime break for you guys. Just quick. 20 minutes, we'll break down stuff and we'll call it a day.
Yep. And of course, you can hear Jeff on the radio with me on 97.3 ESPN. Tomorrow, we'll do a radio hit tomorrow for the people. So make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Find us on the X platform at Mike Gill Show, at Jeff Kerr PHL for this year's Phillies. Andrew Painter, the story today. And of course, we'll be monitoring that and all the Phillies throughout spring training right here on the Phillies Daily Show. All right, Jeff. Good stuff, man.
It sounds great, Mike. Exciting day, and I can't wait for Painter's next start.
Ho, ho, ho. I see you got a Christmas tree still up.
That's a Disney tree. That's not a Christmas tree. I'm just too lazy to put it all down. I got the decorations of the ornaments right where I want them, and it's staying up. I got the train beneath it, and I got Christmas houses in the back. They're not going away.
Just a year-long thing?
It's going to be a year-long thing, yeah.
Wow.
I don't turn the lights on or anything. I just like it. I bought so many ornaments over the years. I'm just like, keeping it.
I had somebody watching text me and noticed the tree in the background. So I said, I didn't even notice it.
I get asked every time I go on a show. I go on the Chiefs flagship station every week. They're like, dude, when you taking that thing down? I'm like, I'm just going to keep it up now.
I didn't even notice it until he texted me. And I just was like, oh, there is a Christmas tree back there. Well,
but if you zoom in, it's Disney ornaments.
Gotcha. All right, man. We'll talk to you.
It sounds great. Thanks, Mike.
All right. See you, everybody.